I have been on a journey to be someone. And along the way, I learned the secrets. It's your friends, the people you choose to spend time with. My life, health, and wealth have been changed forever by the people around me. And now it's time for you to meet my friends. This is the Be Someone podcast with Michael Hong. Welcome back to the Be Someone podcast with Michael Hong. So today we've got my longtime friend Brant Phillips here. How you doing, Brant?
Very well, my friend. Very well. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. Every day I get to see your face is a good day. So Brant and I have known each other for a number of years. We've had similar private lenders. We've been to similar meetup groups, and we've had some of the same mentors over the years. So Brant and I speak a very like a shared common language. So without further ado, Brant, why don't you tell everybody about yourself?
Well, I was born at a very early age. Well, on the real estate side of things, well, let me take a step back. So, a little bit about myself: former law enforcement officer, and moved to the corporate world because I couldn't take the politics and other things that were going on there. Hated the corporate world from day one, and found myself early, like late 20s, early 30s, like hating life, broke as could be. Now I had a wife and a child who I love very much, and I just felt like inadequate as a man because like I hated my life, could barely provide financially, and it was like a road going nowhere, man. It was a shitty place to be, and that's where we find the gold, man. And so through that period of life, led me to look for other ways to live life, man. I was never one of those guys who's like, I want to get rich or anything like that. Like, yeah, I want to get rich, but that was never like my driving focus. Like, I just wanted freedom. I wanted to wake up and enjoy what I was doing, feel good about myself, and then make some money too. But my goal is like find something that I don't hate doing that I actually enjoy. Two, make some money at it. Three, quit my job, have freedom, and then I'll figure out this, getting rich thing later. And I found real estate, and it turns out it's pretty easy to create wealth in real estate if you just like are willing to work. And that's what I did. And here I am, about 18 years later ish, from when I started.
So 18 years in, you have been in the game a lot longer than a lot of people that I know. Your age doesn't show very well because 18 years in, like, did you start when you were 12? Like, how
Well,
are
I can afford a lot of Botox now. So I've actually never had Botox, but my wife was in the hair industry when we got married. She went to beauty school and waited tables. I was working. She went into beauty school, became a hairstylist, and did pretty well for about 10 years. Then we started having kids, and she's like, I just want to be a mom. And she had just made six figures the year before as a hairstylist. Like, I was like, this is back in the day. I'm like, dang. But she wanted to leave, so I'm like, quit your job. I was doing well, and so she went and was full time mom, and now she's part time mom. And a few months ago, maybe a little bit longer, she's like, I'm getting bored. She helps out in the business, but she said, I'm getting a little bored. I think I want to go back into the hair industry, and so she's been getting back, and she's doing Botox. Long-winded way to say she's gonna like inject me next week for my first one because I'm 50 now, and I forget your question, man. But yeah, I'm 50. I've been in the game a while, and I'm 50, and it feels weird saying that because I just turned 50. But that's
well, let's wind back the clock a little bit here. 18 years ago, tell us about your first deal. How did you find it?
so. My first deal, I am a very type A guy. Like I will go take action sometime a little sooner than I should. Okay. Don't need a lot of data information all the time. I get some, but I don't go deep dives all the time. Like basic numbers make sense. Is this somewhat low risk? Is it like a decent to high reward? Let's go. And so how I got started was read a couple of books and read a couple of books on real estate. Went to a weekend boot camp that taught how to buy rental properties. This was 2007. Okay, so when I went into that boot camp, my situation was wife and I were living in an apartment. We had basically no money, meaning we were paycheck to paycheck kind of living. And we weren't exactly newlyweds, but when we got married, we had like negative financial education, I would say, because we had student loans, we had credit card debts, all this kind of stuff, and just naive about that, man. We were living like probably our parents lived, and it wasn't good. So we went to a Dave Ramsey financial freedom class at our church and started working on that year and a half, 2 years before I got into real estate. So we were doing, the Dave Ramsey thing, which is boring as hell and very life draining. Like, oh, if I just keep this up for 25 more years at the, my job, I'm like, we can take a 2-week vacation or something. It was like ridiculous. So it was very soul sucking, I would say. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to keep working this job and doing this Dave Ramsey thing, and woohoo, we're debt free. But I was like, we're still pretty much broke because we had paid off our student loans, paid off credit cards. So we got to this place where we were about flush, but we were still broke. And that's when I decided, dude, it was like almost immediately after I finished. We did finish like paying off these debts and all that. I'm like, all right, what can we do now? And started going to the bookstore. And I never read Robert Allen's No Money Down book. I did meet Robert Allen, got to hang out with him, sit next to him at dinner. May or may not have mentioned to him that I did read his book, but I skimmed the heck through it, and I read Rich Dad Poor Dad and a couple of other like books about creative financing and stuff like that. And I'm like, No Money Down. Sign me up, And so what I did after that 2-week boot camp where I got kind of the basics of how to find deals, how to do this, that, and the other thing, I had borrowed, I borrowed $14,000 on a credit card that we had just paid off because I'm like, okay, bad debt, Dave Ramsey, but Robert Kiyosaki's like talking about this good debt. And I'm like, Dave didn't mention good debt. I like good debt. So I borrowed $14,000 on a credit card, met a wholesaler, and contracted a property this was January 2007. Went to the boot camp. I had just started reading books a few months before. Went to the boot camp and had a property under contract and closed that same month in January. And I used $7,000 from that credit card to get me into the deal, basically.
Wow.
The rest is history. I did basically that same model for the rest of the year. I bought 10 rentals that year, but I only tapped into $7,000. I didn't use the other $7,000. Some people don't believe me. I'm like, I don't care if you believe me or not. I got the HUD statements. I can pull up my bank records. Like, it was smoke and mirrors and negotiating and moving and this and this and that. I had a hard money lender, and you were able to. It was very easy to get refinanced back then. Homeless people were getting refinanced, right? They were buying properties and doing cash out refinances. So it was a crazy world, crazy. But that's what I did, man. It was like a lot of juggling money and getting into deals. I negotiated with my hard money lender after that first deal. I took another $7,000 that I had on that credit card and gave him basically a cashier's check made out to his company. If I ever, defaulted or didn't refinance, he was holding that against me because that's all that I had. So that's how I did it, man. Yeah, it was a different world. Some people I don't believe him. Like, it was a different world, man. It was, I don't know. The hippie era was what? Like peace, love, and happiness. And it was like free money, no credit checks, and houses, time frame. It was like a weird time. But that's all I knew. And so that's what I did the first year.
Yeah. So in the time when you were getting started, the easy way in was just what you were talking about, right? It was easy to get a loan. Now, but real estate is a moving target. And so our market is always changing. Our metrics are always changing. Regulations are changing. Interest rates, financing strategies are always changing. And so how you got started back then was using credit cards and using hard money loans. It was easy to qualify for a loan. That is gone. But with each market cycle comes a new strategy. And so there's people today doing similar things to what you did with little to no money. They're using private lenders. They're using strategies called subject to. So
Yes.
there is ways for people to get in with low or no money down. You just
Yep.
have to kind of be up to date with what's happening in the market. But I like something else you said. You talked about the Dave Ramsey story. Dave Ramsey is very appealing to other people when they hear it. His message is like honey and milk in the on to the ears, because he's telling you something that is low risk. Keep your job, save, pay down debt, and you can be rich by doing what you're already doing. That
Mm-hmm.
sells. Dave Ramsey makes millions of dollars by selling educational courses that 80% of the people pay for them and never actually implement. And so
Yeah.
Dave Ramsey's a big personality out there. Everyone has heard of Dave Ramsey, but I think his message sounds a lot better than the outcome of his teachings. And so I like to tell everybody, if you're looking to be pat on the shoulder and tell you everything's going to be all right, go listen to Dave Ramsey. He'll make you feel great about what's going on in your life. But I don't know too many rich people that said, I just did what Dave Ramsey did.
Yeah, or they're rich slow. His is like the Millionaire Next Door book, if you've ever read that, and it's fine for some people, but it wasn't for me. Now, I don't regret it at all, because for me, Dave Ramsey talks about baby steps. I needed that baby step um, to get some. I needed that baseline of education. I need that baby step. And we didn't need to have credit card debt. Like, we didn't need to be spending money that we didn't have on credit cards and having student loans and stuff we didn't. It was bad debt. So it wasn't for me, obviously, for like my long term plan. And I was obviously drawn to entrepreneurship. And the funny thing was, for me, with going back to something you said, was this thing about there's always market cycles and shifts and changes. And what that really means is, like, opportunities change, and some opportunities go away, or at least they shrink, and some expand. Like, all these same opportunities are usually here. They shrink, and they expand and contract, expand and contract. And so one thing I've always been willing to do, not always in the beginning, but eventually, like, be willing to pivot and shift and do something different, or something a little bit different in the same world of the same real estate sphere. And I think a lot of people aren't willing to do that. And sometimes I don't want to do it, because, we're lazy a lot of times, typically, and we like, man, this is working for me. I don't want to change. Like, I don't want to change. I want to change. Okay, I need to change, or I need to pivot or change a little bit. And so when I first started, I had was buying rentals, because that's what I was told and to do. And the people who taught me had a lot more money than me, because I had none. And I was doing that for about close to 25 rentals I had. And the model they were following back then was essentially, buy a rental, um, essentially fully leveraged, typically with no money down or very little money down. And you're getting like maybe $150 to $250 a month cash flow. And I did it. I put my blinders on, because, I probably have a certain level of ADD and I want to go do other things. And I'm like, okay. And I took a step back, and I was assessing what's working, what's not working. And I was seeing, like, okay, I was starting to create some net worth, which I had none before, other than that cheesy 401k that I had. And I'm like, okay, this works in terms of my net worth. It does not work for quote unquote cash flow. That was a myth, and it was not passive at all whatsoever. and I really didn't even enjoy it. Because there's a lot of work, there's headaches, all that kind of stuff with tenants. I won't go into that. But after about 20, deals, I'm like, I I need cash. Like I need money because I'm still working my job and I'm putting most of the money from my rentals back into it. Now, granted, I was heavily leveraged. Don't get me wrong. Um, but it was like the money I was making was going back into the business, which was fine. But I'm like, I need more cash. So that's what led me to flipping, and that talk about cycles. So 2008, whoosh, flipping market went away. Well, there was some opportunities in 2009, not a lot, but and my first one flopped. I lost money on it and almost didn't go back to doing it. But then I did another one, a flip, and I made close to $65,000 net in literally 60 days, and it was a rehab. Like we bought it, rehabbed it in 30 days, put it on the market, got a full price offer that same day. Close exactly 30 days later, I've got the HUDs and all that. I've done some training on it. And I made more in those 60 days flipping a house, which was something I really enjoyed. Like love doing it. I made more doing that in 60 days than in my job the entire previous year. So it changed my life. And there were no more thoughts of Dave Ramsey. I'll tell you, at that point, I'm like, no, not going back
Yeah, so Dave Ramsey's out of the window because with one flip in about 60 days, you made more money than you did an entire year working your W-2. I
there.
love that. That's powerful. So, can you talk about what your business looks like today?
Well, so I've always like going to the ADD thing. I've always, I get bored pretty quickly, and although like I'm been in real estate 18 years, I still love it. But I like uh, we are vertically integrating along the way. Every couple of years, we'll add a layer to our company, which is either an investment, like a heavy investment strategy that we'll dive deep into and bolt on to our business, so to speak, or an actual company, actual business that we've integrated on. So the progression for me was first 2.5 years was strictly like basically rentals, and that was great. But like I said, I was still in position like I don't think I could quit my job and pay my bills because now we had another kid. Now we had two kids, soon to have a third. We actually moved into a home. There's no more bills. Wife's talking about quitting her job, wanting the kids to go to private school. I'm like, all right, I need to make some more money. And what my business looks like now is soon thereafter, my hard money lender commented on my rehab, the rehab work that we were doing, because I really enjoyed the rehab. You and I spoke previously, like you hate the rehab, you like other parts of the business. I enjoyed the rehab. Most people don't. I loved it, and meaning managing the crews and construction management and stuff like. I really enjoyed it. So we started a construction company up around that time, and we've been operating that in one form or fashion. We've rebranded it and stuff like that a couple of years ago. But so we've got a construction company that we run as well, primarily focused on investors, but we do other things. But most importantly, not most importantly, but for me, is that I'm able to just put all my construction into that company's pipeline, and my flips or make readies or whatever come out the other side. So that was one business that we added on to it. When I started raising money, I began quickly having a surplus of private money. So we started lending to other people. We've been doing that for close to 10 years. Then we started moving to, I'm an affordable housing kind of guy, by the way. I don't like to invest in high end luxury, all that kind of stuff. So started gravitating like where are some opportunities there. So we began buying mobile home parks and RV parks. So we've got done about 7 of those over the years, and we've got some land. We've got 3 large tracts of land that we're working on, like 100 plus acres, doing some things with those. Um, we've got a management company as well that same as the construction industry, manages our properties, and also is available to help support other investors with their property management. Although it's not a full-fledged property management, it's a VA support company, and they're well versed in assisting real estate investors, obviously mainly me, but so they help investors manage their portfolio through support services. So, that's what the business looks like. There's a lot of moving parts, but it's all the basically the components that you need to run a full-fledged investment company. We've just learned how to monetize certain aspects of those, the ones that we do well and have built teams for. So that's what the business looks like now. And I've coached and mentored along the way in one way, shape, form, or another, whether it's just helping people out that I meet, taking someone under my wing. I've got a coaching group too, like a group of people who are really focused on building a business. So that's another piece of what I do. But yeah, that's it for the most part.
So, brother, you got to slow down here, man. You are, if I heard that correctly, you do property management. Did I hear that correctly?
Correct. That's not a big company. It's mainly they manage our portfolio. Okay. Manage our parks, our rentals, our owner finance notes, all that kind of stuff.
Okay, but do you offer that service to other people?
We do.
Okay, so you've got a property management company, you've got a general contracting company. Do you offer that to other people, or is that just in house?
No, that's definitely, yeah. Our majority of our revenue now is from customers. When we first started it, year one, I was 80%. Now I'm minority to our customers. So yeah,
Okay, so you have general contracting, property management, hard money lending because you had raised so much private money over the years.
yeah,
You are doing coaching and mentoring. You are investing in land, flipping single family houses, RV parks, mobile home parks. Man, you really got to do more.
yeah. You got any ideas? Uh,
Should do some podcasts.
yeah, it's a good idea.
All right. And so today with your when you're doing a deal, how are you finding leads today? How are you finding deals?
Well, so when it comes to investment deals, excuse me, yeah, I've got a full-time acquisitions assistant, only one. We're not high volume on our investment business anymore like we were in years past. So now it's more quality over quantity, and he's looking, whether it could be a fix and flip, it could be a mobile home park, what have you. So my acquisitions team handles all that for me and sets them up, and I make the decision, pull the trigger or not. So that's how that looks like.
And
Primarily
they're
SEO. What's that?
I'm sorry. So you said they're primarily doing SEO?
Yeah, SEO is our main primary thing. A little bit of mail, and then just we also get a lot of referrals and word of mouth, just because we've been doing it so long.
So SEO, search engine optimization. So you work with people who make sure that when someone types in sell my house in X city, that you come
Yeah,
up top on the list. You do
yeah,
some direct mail where you get letters, send letters out to people who might want to sell. You
yeah.
guys are, but now a lot of it's coming from referrals from wholesalers, realtors, both.
Yeah, yeah. More so, wholesalers I've been working with for many, many years, and we put a lot of information out there too to attract newer wholesalers. What we try to do, and our SEO does a really good job of that. SEO is not something I necessarily recommend people to do in the beginning. Um, but we started it like 10 years ago when it was like, what is SEO? And through a relationship I had years back, we started like, man, let's look into this. And we just started, like, we just stuck at it. It took us like a year to get a deal. We were not good at it, but now we've gotten pretty good.
Yeah, I've had the same experience with SEO. Is it's kind of slow starting out. It's not for the beginners, but it's something you need to be building in the background while you're doing other ways to generate your leads.
Yeah, it is like so the way that I say is like, it's like essential, like putting on muscle. And you're not going to put muscle on overnight. You got to go gym, and it's long and it's tedious and it's boring and it's painful at times. But if you're consistent, once you get that muscle, like, it's going to stay there for a while. Right now you're just on maintenance phase for the most part. So I love it. Like, I recommend it, but not typically in the beginning when people need to generate cash and get deals going. Uh-uh. long-term strategy.
So, what kind of marketing channels do you recommend newbies get into that are just starting off that can't wait for SEO to grow?
Well, direct mail is what I typically recommend. It's just it's the most proven, it's the most consistent. If they have that budget, if not, now you're driving for dollars, door knocking, texting, all that kind of stuff, which we don't do much of any of that.
So, and what areas, if there was a wholesaler or a realtor that wanted to bring you a deal, what areas of the country do you service? How would they know if this deal is a Brant deal?
Okay, so single family, like ideally in the greater Houston area within like 1 to 2 hours. We started expanding out, like so. We've done deals all over Texas, San Antonio, Austin, East Texas, Dallas, you name it. Especially when we started buying mobile homes and doing owner financing. So a slight majority of our flips now we started selling with owner financing. Um, we'll see if that changes as so many people are getting deported. Um, so we shall see. But we've done deals all over the state of Texas in terms of single family. We've actually done a few deals out of the state. That's not our market. We've done a few, and we've bought mobile home parks out of the state. But typically, there's something in Texas, we'd be interested. If there's something in Houston, we'd definitely be interested.
So, single family. Let me see if I understand this. Single family within 1 to 2 hours of Houston, which that's a that's a big radius. I'm glad you guys cover that much space.
We do, and we typically like the outer fringes. Like our sweet spot are like a mobile home on an acre of
Mobile
land.
home on an acre land within 2 hours of Houston.
Yeah, and if it's on more land, 2 to 10 acres, whatever, a lot of investors will just they'll pass on those. They don't want to do mobile homes. I get it, but we do. We have a niche, and we've got ways to bring buyers to those, and we like them.
Awesome. And if it's a RV park or mobile home park, you go statewide, nationwide. What is your parameters on that?
Yeah, more so, we're more interested in mobile home parks. Okay, the how we have a couple of RV parks. The kind of long stories. I won't get into it too much, but I'm not really an RV park kind of guy. I like mobile home parks just because I'm 50. If I didn't mention that, and the the active side of my business is when I say it's active, it's like it's I want it easily convertible to passive, and my owner finance notes do that, and my mobile home parks do that much more so than RV parks. They're more on the hospitality side of things, and there are some RV parks we like when it's mainly long-term residents, so it's essentially a mobile home, kind of quasi mobile home park. But that's what we're looking for is more of the mobile home parks.
And so, if someone had a deal that they think you'd be interested in, how would they get in touch with you?
Just my website's the easiest thing to do is just go to brantphillips.com and send something through there. We're gonna get that message or call the number on that page is the easiest thing to do.
Awesome. And so, so when you're flipping, you are exiting. Do you just sell through the MLS? You said your owner financing. How are you exiting most of your deals these days? It sounds like in the past you were mostly selling on the MLS. Is that still true today?
Yeah, so we're selling everything on the MLS, and then markets change and situations change, and I had a make ready actually on a rental that I don't know, dude. Like some things that tenants do to properties is just like it's like a punch in the gut. And this particular property, it had been make ready like a year or two before, and this tenant, they didn't destroy it, but it was like it needed all new paint, all new carpet. It was like 2 years old. It was just frustrating. One of my painters was there, and he was like, I was bitching, I'm sure, and I made some comment. I don't remember the comment, but he was basically like, well, I'll buy the house from you. And I was like, do you have any money? He's like, not really, basically. But we worked out a deal to where I'm like, well, we'll figure out how much money do you have? Okay, I'll probably be open to that. It was like maybe twice of whatever a deposit would have been. So I found an attorney who did owner finance stuff. And I was like, I want to sell this house to this dude with I didn't know anything about wrap mortgage, anything like that. I'm like, this is the situation. This is what I want to do. How can we do it? He's like, it's real easy. Do this, that, and the other thing. So I owner financed that home to that guy 2012, something like that. And now it's been what, 13 years, and he's not refinanced the home. He's still in the home every month, clockwork. So I did that, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then I had a flip that wasn't selling, and an agent called, and they're like, hey, I wanted to see if your seller would accept owner financing. I'm like, well, I'm the seller. And I'm like, no, I don't think so, because this home we were selling at 350 back around that same time, 12, 13 years ago, which was, to me, that was a high end flip back then. We weren't dealing in that place. We were flipping homes that were like 75,000 to like 200,000. So it was a pricey home. It was a very large, nice home. And I said, no, we're not really looking for, an owner finance offer on a home that's that price point. She's like, well, they're putting down like, they could put down like $100,000 to $150,000 cash. I'm like, well, we may have changed our policy on that. And, so we ended up accepting that offer, and it worked out incredibly well. And so I figured out, okay, here's how I could, potentially have an additional exit strategy. And that's all. I was like, this may be a good exit strategy to do. And we utilized it a couple more times the next year, And I started looking back. I know your question wasn't really owner financing, but that just became more like each year it has increased in how we sell those deals. And we sell them, our flips, through the MLS, and we have some other people that kind of focus on owner finance buyers. They bring buyers to us. Some of these are licensed folks, they're agents, and some of them are not. They are just hustling bird dog kind of folks who work Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist or what have you, and bring us buyers.
Wow, that's awesome. So yeah, with owner financing, doing wraps and notes, great strategy. Just I would just tell everybody that the rules and regulations around that change, and then now we're Brant and I are both here in Houston, Texas. So when we do those transactions, we get an attorney to underwrite it, or a residential, an RMLO, a loan officer to underwrite them. Make sure we're compliant with that, because I don't know when you're listening to this podcast in the future, but in the short time I've been in real estate, the rules on that have changed twice. So always use third parties, like Brant uses a lawyer, talk to a lender, a title company, and make sure you have the right people when you're doing that. But I think it's a great exit strategy. Creates notes that's passive, and then you can hold those notes forever. You can put them in your self-directed IRA or your retirement account. And then if you need money yourself, guess what? You can sell those notes to other people. They're tradable. So you get to be the bank when you're using that strategy.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point. We actually don't do. We stopped doing wrap mortgages years ago when that legislation changed. Make sure everything's Dodd-Frank compliant. Run our buyers through the RMLO every time. Always goes to the title. All that kind of. We do it the right way. So if you don't do it the right way, I know this isn't like an owner finance conversation, but then you don't do it the right way, then if a foreclosure comes up, you may put yourself in a difficult situation. Not saying you can't foreclose, but it may be more challenging, and it may be more challenging to sell a note. Possibly, it just depends. But you just want to do things the right way.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I always get an RMLO to underwrite every time as well. So as we kind of move to the last segment of this show, I like to remind everybody that we're on a course in our life, and we think it's a course of our own free will. But what is really happening is we're usually prescribed a lifestyle, either by where we were born, what our parents said, where we went to school, or what our friends around us did when we were growing up. And most real estate investors I interview, they were not born real estate investors. They didn't come from a real estate investing family. What happened is, along the way, something changed their course. And for most people, that's a book. So I'd like to ask you, Brant, what book kind of changed the course for you the most out of your life?
Well, framed that way, Rich Dad Poor Dad frame, was the biggest book where I had an aha moment, and I understood things that I didn't understand before in terms of like the numbers of a basic deal and looking at risk and reward. Coincidentally, I had uh, began to read Tony Robbins. I got a CD from Tony Robbins. So when I had the introduction of real estate skill sets combined with the mindset type of stuff that I was getting with Tony, it just, the synergy was like through the roof. And so I dug into those a lot. And I know you had asked me this question before the podcast. I will tell you a book that I've read recently, multiple times, just in the last few months, is this book right here, Happy Pocket Full of Money. Um, I love this book. Like, I love this book. So I would highly recommend that to people as well. I don't think a lot of people have heard about that book.
I haven't. That's the first time hearing about it. I wrote it down. I've never even seen that book before. A Happy Pocket Full of Money.
Happy Pocket Full of Money is really good.
And then I know you wrote a book because I have it on my shelf here behind me somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But what's the title of your book?
First book I wrote was called How to Flip a House, which was about how to flip a house. And written a couple of other books, but the latest and greatest is the Private Lender Playbook. I just happen to have a copy here. There you go.
We're both, for those of you who are not on YouTube, we're both holding up his book, The Private Lender Playbook. I didn't know about your previous book. I only knew about this one.
Yeah, and this one it's all about educating lenders. And I was doing a lot of speaking back in the day at different IRA companies, primarily Quest when they were around, and doing a lot of those type of events. I was speaking a lot, doing monthly private lender lunch and learns in Houston, Dallas, and sometimes even Austin all in the same month. So I was traveling a lot, speaking a lot, teaching a lot. And it was just something that I believed in terms of when you look at people's investment options. Most people, most laymen out there who has a 401k or some money, they don't even know private mortgage lending exists. So when I started, speaking about it, it was kind of like the gospel in an investment sense. Like they'd never heard of, like, wow, it was life changing to them in terms of they could invest locally. It was secured by real estate, or above market rates of return. Investing in their restoring communities, there's all these feel good aspects, and then the return was really good too. And then they could sleep good at night, not worry about all this up and down and all the shenanigans that goes on at Wall Street. So that was all great. But we had such an influx of people. Like I had an influx of lenders in a very short period of time where we couldn't put all the capital to work. And then some of these lenders are reaching out to me, and it was after the fact. They had done a deal the wrong way. They loaned this money to an investor unsecured, all this kind of stuff. And it was not good. Like it was not good. And so just for a sheer capacity, thing, like I couldn't, there were people all over the place. So I was just like, I'm going to write a book about it, because there was not any books on the market at the time of like explaining a lender on how to safely, navigate through successfully becoming a private mortgage lender. So there wasn't. So I was like, I enjoy writing, and I really do. And so I took some time and wrote that book, and it's basically, shows them the steps, the playbook, if you will, on how to invest as a private mortgage lender. So that was pretty cool. And it was a good use of time, because I think it's helped a lot of people. And I'm not saying like I'm the greatest or whatever, but I know that what's in that book works. If there's lenders that are watching this, and if you're just an investor, I would encourage you, especially if you're looking at raising private money, like I would strongly encourage you to get as much education as you can, not just book education, which is good, but get the real life education. Um, we talked about baby steps earlier. Probably start with a hard money lender, having someone look over your shoulders, whether it's a coach, a mentor, a hard money lender, to safeguard you and navigate through getting deals under your belt successfully. Because one mistake I've seen is when investors come in and some of them start raising private money right away, and low experience borrower with low experienced lender is not a good formula. Okay, if you have a high experienced lender, basically our money lender a lot of times, and a low experienced borrower, that can work, and vice versa. Um, but when they're both low level, it's typically not good. It's not good. So I want to safeguard as many people as I can from that. And you know, not want to toot my own horn, but Grant Cardone, he said his mom used to say, "If you got a horn, why don't you toot it?" And I can say that, what I put in the book and what I've done, we've paid over 10,000 mortgages without missing a mortgage, starting from my ground zero on a credit card. Um, so I am pretty conservative, right? Low risk, high reward, that kind of stuff. Like, be careful. And so that's what's gone into making the book. And when I speak and teach, like, hey, I've been doing this a long time, enough to say we've paid 10,000. I don't even know how many more mortgages now without missing one. So that's the basis of the book.
10,000 mortgages is an astounding number. I didn't even know you've done that many notes, Brant, and you've successfully paid that many mortgages. That is amazing.
I didn't know that either until recently. I like spitballed a while back, and I was just like, hey, we've probably paid like 5,000 mortgages, and I said that like speaking a lot, and I was like, how many more? Like, it's got to be way more than that now. So just in the last few months, my assistants went through and like verified, like, yeah, we're 10,000 plus.
Wow, 10,000 mortgages. And I love what you said about new people. So my first deal, my first couple of deals, I used a private money lender. But I tell new people, you probably shouldn't do that, because a hard money lender will look over your shoulder. They get to be the bad guy because typical, we've talked about this in the podcast before, but I'll break it down again. Let's say your rehab to repair the house is $30,000. Typically what they'll do is they'll do it in $10,000 draws. And so you will pay a contractor 10 grand, they'll do the work, and they say, all right, boss, pay me. And if you don't have the right people looking over your shoulder, you might just pay a contractor for work that's incomplete or done incorrectly. But
Yeah.
with the hard money lender, they send what they call as a draw inspector out to the property to verify that the work is done and done correctly to the best of their knowledge. And if the work's not done right, they won't release that next chunk of money, that $10,000 to you to give to the contractor. So then you can get on the phone with the contractor and say, I would love to pay you, but
Yep.
this stinking draw inspector, he's being too picky and he needs you to get out there and fix these 3 things. Can you do that? And then you can get your next chunk of money. Uh, I think it's great for new people because you have experienced eyes walking you every step of the way, because it's your project, but it's the hard money lender's money. And then
Yeah.
once you've done a number of those, you save the HUD statements, you save photos, and you build yourself a portfolio of experience. And then you take that to private lenders where it's between you and the private lender, and you guys can negotiate whatever number makes sense to you.
Yeah. And they may even just save you from doing a deal because I
That's right.
remember after my 4th or 5th deal that I had done with hard money, I put another one under contract and called my hard money lender, and he went and took a look at it. We didn't meet. We typically meet. We didn't meet that day. And he called me to tell me that he wasn't going to do the loan. And I'm like, what do you mean I'm not going to do the loan? He's like, there's just some things I don't like about it. And it was a short conversation. He said, hey, I got to go. Call me tomorrow. And I remember thinking, like, it kind of pissed me off. And I was starting to get, honestly, like an unhealthy ego. Okay. I was probably getting a little unhealthy ego because I had these 4 or 5 deals, thought I knew what I was doing. And I remember having this thought. I'm like, well, I'm going to show him. I'm going to go get somebody else to fund it for me. I'm going to find somebody else. And it was just like this very egotistical kind of like, oh, I'm going to show him. And I remember that night I was laying in bed and I just started thinking, I'm like, why would David tell me no? Because David was my guy. I'm like, why would David not want to loan to me? He is a hard money lender. He's loaned to me on 4 or 5 other deals without any, you know, issues. He's in the business of lending money. He's done this a lot longer. And so I was like, there's probably a reason or multiple reasons. So I'm like, I call him the next day and I was kind of like, hey man, kind of tail tucked between my legs. Just curious, like, what do you like about that deal? And he saw something with the foundation that scared him. It was in a rough area too. It was kind of a war zone. Um, I think it had aluminum wiring, and he thought some of it was stripped out or something. There was like 4 or 5 things that were like, oh, he was worried about the sewer line. Never dealt with aluminum wiring. Never dealt with the sewer line. Like he was like, I'm pretty sure that thing is shot. The age of the home was a lot old. It was just like several things. I'm like, all right, I'm going to listen to David. And I'm pretty sure he saved me on that deal, you know? So that's where I learned that lesson. I'm like, those guys are a good safeguard for you because if they don't want to loan money to you on a deal, um, you need to think about that. Like I had someone who's now a student come to me a few months ago and I want you to take a look at this deal. They wanted me to lend on it. And I looked at it and I was like, no, no. And they're like, well, what if we bring $50,000 to closing? Because they could bring 50,000. I'm like, if you're bringing that much, you're telling me it's not even a deal. And I think I need you to bring more money. And like, well, we could maybe bring more money. I'm like, listen to me. Don't do this deal. If you can go negotiate it, 50, $75,000 less, then let's talk. But if not, don't do it. Just don't do it.
Yeah, I like that. If it's not a deal and more money makes it a deal, it's probably not a deal. I've learned that as well. There's a limit. This number changes based on the market you're in and the experience level. So work with people in your market to figure out this number. But there is a number for each market that is an astronomically high amount of money the investor will need to bring out of their pocket at the closing table, which means it's not really a deal. You need to keep looking around. And so sometimes the best deals you do in life are the deals you don't do.
Yeah. Well, my philosophy is that real estate should put money in your pocket, not take it out, even when you're buying real estate. You know, we buy money, we buy real estate with no money down. To this day, you know, we will buy real estate with no money down. Most oftentimes, we will receive cash at closing. That may be
Love
a
it.
subject for another day, but that's how we do business.
Love it. I've had several deals where I've gotten cash at closing. And actually, on my first deal, I got $800 back at closing. I was on top of the world. Now, I've done great deals that made a lot of sense and put money in my pocket afterwards where I was bringing money to closing. So, bringing money to closing does not mean it's a bad deal. You need to work with someone experienced in your market that can look through that.
Yeah,
But, and even if it's just an $800 check at closing, you feel like it's $1 million when you get paid to buy real estate. It's a really great feeling.
yeah. It's just what I found is that's how I started. Was I was forced to essentially find after using my credit card on my first deal. I, I was limited. Like I was had no more funds except $7,000 credit card. So I was forced to find ways to get 100% financing. Right. I didn't know about cash at closing, but I for me to continue buying properties, I it was one of the greatest blessings ever to have no money because it wired me to like, okay, I like there's a way to figure this out, which meant I may need to market harder, negotiate harder, things like that. Not negotiate harder with sellers, also with lenders. And but it forced me and it instilled in me that mindset of like I need to find deals with no money or getting cash at closing. And it made me a better investor having that upbringing, so to speak, when I got into real estate. And so I keep that mindset to this day with mobile home parks that we've bought, RV parks, land deals, all that kind of stuff. Um, that is the mindset. And 9 times out of 10, that's how we execute our deals.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. And so at the end of the show here, I like to ask everyone the same thing. So we're big fans of the Go Giver. I love that book. I identify as a go giver. And so I like to say on every podcast, everybody listening, um, when you were a child, your parents had to give to you long before you were capable of giving back. And if you work a typical job, you work for 2 weeks or more before you get a paycheck. So if your plan is to stand in front of the fireplace holding wood and saying, "Give me warmth first, and then I'll give you this wood," it's going to be a very cold winter. So I like to ask every guest on the show, what can you give the audience today?
Well, we mentioned my book. Um, I can give everybody digital copy of this, of the Private Lender Playbook. Be happy to do that.
Awesome. And then how do they get that?
Just go to brantphillips.com and send us a request, and we'll get that to them right away.
Awesome. And then what can our audience give you today?
Man, I'll tell you what would be helpful to me is that we're building out a YouTube channel. So any subscribers, new subscribers and likes and engagement on that, like we'd absolutely love and appreciate that.
And what's that YouTube channel?
It's at Real Estate with Brant Phillips. Real Estate
At
with Brant Phillips.
at Real Estate with Brant Phillips. BRANTPHILLIPS. Real Estate with Brant Phillips.
That's it.
Awesome. And do you have an Instagram? Do you want people to follow your Instagram, or do you just prefer YouTube?
I'm on Instagram also.
All right. Do you know what it is offhand?
It's brant.a.phillips.
At brant.a.phillips. And
Yep.
if anybody wants to follow me, I'm at Michael B. Someone on Instagram. And all the books we talk about here and more can be found on the link in my description. And I also give my phone number out on every show. Text me, please. Don't call me. I have so many spam calls I won't pick up. Shoot me a text at 832-301-9672. This is Michael Hong for the Be Someone podcast with Brant Phillips. Until next time.